Welcome to Beware Bulldogs podcast. The Dogs fall to Wyoming, 24-19. We're going to recap it today. We have stats. We have your responses. We have the play of the game. We have player of the game. It's going to be a tough one. We're going to cover all of that and more on today's show. Beware of Bulldogs. Thanks for tuning in. Let's do it. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Beware of Bulldogs. You can find us on X, Beware_Bulldogs, on Instagram, Beware of Bulldogs Podcast, and we're on YouTube, Beware of Bulldogs. We are live right now on YouTube and X. Hop in the chat on YouTube so you can see everything that's going on and interact with the red wave there. If you're verified on Twitter, you can chat on Twitter. But other than that, if you're not verified, sorry. Head over to YouTube, though. We can find you there. My name is Caleb. The other host of the show's name is Caleb. We are the CNC Fresno Football Factory. We're gonna do our best to have a good time today because it's tough after a loss, especially when we're ranked. I'm starting to get used to it now, Caleb. We're ranked top 25 and then we lose. I feel like is too common in our world. But we call them sad Sundays. Our goal is for this show is to not be sad. We're going to lift everyone's spirits up again, but we are going to have to recap the game and get ready for the next game. But first, Mr. Pletz, how are you, man?
I mean, overall, it was a nice weekend, aside from the result of the game last night, which obviously was really tough. But it's still beautiful. I mean, I'm still enjoying this 90-degree weather. I'm a fan of the heat, so keep this as long as possible. But yeah, Coach Tedford usually says, 24-hour rule. We will flush this from the system and move on to the next opponent. So we can't let this one hold us back, and we can't keep thinking about it. We need to move on because obviously we're going to go up against a tough Utah State opponent this week, and we don't want to start a losing streak here. No. I see you guys. I see everybody hopping in the chat. It's we're gonna have a good time. I see some people need Prozac, so it's yeah. Back to the weather, Caleb. I'll trade you? You want to come work on the farm in the heat? You're more than welcome. I am ready for fall weather. All right, we're going to get to you guys first on social media. So we're going to go through Twitter and Instagram, and then Caleb and I will share our opinions. I'm going to be honest here. My opinions are going to differ from a lot of people that commented. So we'll see. And I know a lot of you are also watching Niners and Cowboys right now. So thank you for tuning in. All right, let's get started. Let's start running through these, Caleb. A lot of people saying regroup, keep playing Bulldog football. There's some people are saying this in there. I'm not going to read all of them because my goodness, you guys are nuts, and you guys commented a lot on X, which we're very thankful for, but it'll take me an hour to read all of them. But what we got was we got to regroup. We got to keep playing Bulldog football. We control our own destiny still. I don't agree with that. If Wyoming and Air Force play each other, I need to look at tiebreakers though. And I believe it's how they have us ranked. The highest ranked team gets in nationally. Mm-hmm. I think I may be wrong. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But if Air Force and Wyoming play next week, then the loser of that wins out. Do we still get in? If it's Wyoming, no, because they have the head-to-head on us. So I don't think we control our own destiny right now. As of right now, is that correct? Yeah, I think it would have really helped if Boise had lost to San Jose State last night. I mean, talk about another meltdown. San Jose was in control, and then credit to Boise State, they put a
They put a solid comeback together. I think they scored 28 unanswered points to come back and win. So that would have really helped the Dogs, just for putting another loss in Boise's column. But yeah, the Dogs are going to need some help. I'm going to need probably 2 losses from Wyoming. I mean, I think Air Force has a good chance of beating them. This week. I think they play this week. But definitely gonna need some help. But all the Dogs can do is control the game that's in front of them. So obviously, wishing doesn't do anything. Just controlling the game that's next up is really all they can do.
That is true. Fantasy football dudes keeps it very simple. Too many penalties. I know some of you may think that, and some you did say that it was very one-sided. It was one-sided in penalties. However, I went back and watched, and I hate to say this, but the refs did get it right. They missed a lot, but what they did call, it was the right call. You want to see a clean game, or you want to see a game at least called even. It wasn't that way, but you got to take care of business, and we just didn't do that. Your thoughts on penalties? By the way, just bonehead mistakes for the penalties.
Yeah, a lot of them were silly and unavoidable. Like I think 35, the other Bailey, he had a late hit that was avoidable. I mean, some of the hands to the face, I don't know. That kind of seemed kind of ticky tack, and I guess his hand was getting in his face, but I don't know. That's so very rarely called on the defensive line that was surprising. So I mean, maybe that's coming from the officiating office, telling the refs to look out for that. But that was definitely frustrating, and it's just a lot of times where it extended drives for Wyoming and just kind of kept the momentum in Wyoming's favor. Towards the end of the game, Fresno State was the beneficiary of a couple penalties. So, it wasn't all bad. And like you said, most of them were warranted, especially some of the holding calls. So, but there were a lot of calls that were missed. But, every game you can complain about officiating. It's a really tough gig. And, there's always going to be someone mad at them.
That's why there's a lack of refs. We can't find any in the Valley. There's no refs out here. Nobody wants to do that job. Josh Bryant, D was too porous. O wasn't consistent. To be great, that can't happen. Kudos and hats off to the Pokes. Single-use plastic. Thought we had them on the second half. The second half was great. We'll touch on it. Any honest Wyoming fan probably thought the same. Liked the way the defense responded. Cole Nale got back from work at the start of the second half. I was there when he got back at the second half, and he says, I got back, immediately pounded 3 margaritas. What a great game. Well, if it just got the second half, we won the second half.
Yeah,
I guess. Matt, hurts like every loss does. Bulldog fan, the DC and OC facepalm. I want to talk about this, and we can talk about it more later when we get into numbers. But it looked like Coach McCann got out-coached when it comes to him play calling, and then when it comes to the Wyoming defensive coordinator and what they did, their game plan. It took too long for us to figure it out. It's one thing to make adjustments at halftime. It's another thing to make in-game adjustments. And I think that's what separates the greats. I thought our game plan was fine. If you look at the numbers, our short passing game is really what kept us in it. That's all we did. Now, we could talk about opening it up down the field. We didn't have any attempts over 20 yards, any passing attempts over 20 yards, I believe, or 30 of it. None, 0. We could talk about we didn't do enough to get our guys in space, but when it comes to adjustments when it comes adjusting to the Wyoming defense, I didn't see it in game. Halftime, yes, but in game, no.
So do you think that part of that, maybe mismatch there is that Fresno State offensive line was just outgunned and outmatched, and that Coach McCann was just trying to scheme, quick throws, and obviously if we aren't able to run the ball, it's tough to be, keeping the defense on their toes. So I mean, do you think that plays into it at all? That the Dogs are just kind of outmatched on the line?
Yeah, I think that's always going to be the case as of right now from what we've seen. we ran a lot of sprints, like a sprint out when Mikey Keene catches the ball and rolls out immediately. We did that, try to get him in some space. But, both quarterbacks could not, and I was just going to say this, and you pull this up, that Bulldogs, Bob. Both quarterbacks could not complete a 5-yard out route. We missed that multiple times. Our wide receivers also dropped the ball multiple times. So he does have a point there, yes. But I would like to see, getting players in space when it comes to, like, let's get Gil the ball. We got to get him the ball. We got to get Jalen Moss the ball. We got to scheme Sherrod in space because he's quick. By the way, another interesting stat, neither running back, Gilliam or Sherrod, forced a broken tackle or a missed tackle. Interesting there. So yeah, you could say players, I guess. It's both. Every game, it's both. Win or lose, it's both. So yeah, Bob does have a good point there. But yeah, I just, for some reason, I just feel like there is a time when, let's say, the defense is on the field, you got to get the offense together and say, okay, what's happening? Tell me so I can help you. Things like that. And I just didn't feel like that happened. But yes, the O-line did not help us out at all.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, just to add on, like, the running backs not slipping tackles, Sherrod did get kind of banged up again early in the game. So I don't know if that affected his ability, to be more elusive, but yeah, that it's a problem when, the running backs, I think maybe we were just, a little, didn't appreciate how good Ronnie and Jordan Mims were, just at, not going down at first contact and, being able to, really develop the run on their own if, the O-line wasn't doing enough for him.
Yeah, it's tough. Big Papa Fish. It seems like Fresno, regardless of who's the coach, poops the bed at least once a year. Hopefully this is a one-time deal this season. Yeah. It's tough to go undefeated. That is really hard to do. Drip dropping, dug themselves too deep of a hole early. Field goals need to be touchdowns. A good try coming back. LA Bowl still attainable. So Mountain West Championship, very attainable still. January 1st Bowl, someday. Bulldog.
That maybe someday when the playoff expands to 12. That'll
there we go. Yeah. It's with Marshall lost, and they were technically the next G5 team. So if we win out and Wyoming and Air Force lose a couple times, there's still a possibility that we are the top G5 team. We just got to take care of business and hope some other teams lose. Bulldog Dad, defense didn't swarm. Offense didn't protect. Keene was gun shy. Too many throwaways. I would even say not enough throwaways. You got it. He's holding on the ball too long. John, Peasley and Wyoming receivers played like they are all conference in the first half, and we didn't. Enjoyed the game, though. Go Dogs. We should say this. We were talking about this before. Peasley looked like an all-pro this game. How did they let the Wyoming QB throw through that? There you go. Peasley was a stud. And by the way, it wasn't just wide receivers running free. Their tight ends were magnificent. Oh, you have to respect. You think we have to respect it. Now I noticed, we'll bring this stat up. They were 6 for 6 throwing at Auxiliary and Hamilton. They were 4 for 5 throwing against Carlton Johnson. So neither DB stopped much. I will say there was some communication in our zone coverages. They overloaded zones. There's on one of their touchdown passes, you'll see they had 2 tight ends one running a seam down the middle, one running a streak on the outside. And Dean and Hamilton were supposed to pass. One of them was supposed to pass one to the other. It didn't happen. The guy running the seam down the middle is wide open, touchdown. And Peasley threw a dart, and he threw lots of them. So, there's that. There's lack of communication there. But my goodness, Peasley looked so good.
Yeah, and I mean, even Coach Craig Bull in the press conference, he said this is the best his team has played on offense since 2016. So, part of it, we mentioned it leading in. The Dogs have a big target on their back. They're going to get everyone's best shot, and the Wyoming coaching staff took advantage of obviously some weaknesses, especially in the Fresno State defense, and not being able to make a quick adjustment.
Mm-hmm. Fresno to Minneapolis. The game came down to the final drive. He's right. Even after all of that, we had the final drive to go win this game.
Mm-hmm.
So even after all of that, and he says that allowing that touchdown drive with a couple minutes left was bad. But we made up for it in the second half. Larry Farnsworth, disappointing, not surprising. His gut told him, he said, my gut told me we were overrated, still have a lot to play for. PZ, I've decided last night was a blip. I'm praying it was a blip. And I wanted to ask you this question, Caleb, and we can, we'll talk. Is it time to worry right now about this team, or should we just wait? There's no need to worry right now, or is it time to?
I think there is some room to worry, because I think that there was some exposure last night to weaknesses in the Fresno State. And I think one of those is obviously the Dogs were unable to run the ball. We'll get into the stats later, but I mean, total rushing yards of 38 for this team is not going to cut it, especially against tough conference opponents. And I mean, not being able to drive the ball down the field, I think, is really tough too. So we're kind of putting ourselves in a very small box where we're able to operate successfully. And if there's a competent defense, I think that the Dogs are in trouble there. So I mean, I'm really not worried about the defense. Obviously the Dogs showed in the second half they were able to kind of turn it around and figure it out. But I do have some serious concerns about this offense, and especially with the uncertainty of Mikey Keene. I don't think we mentioned, but yeah, or maybe we did. But going down with injury and look like an ankle injury. I haven't been able to find any information yet about his condition, and I'm sure Coach Tedford will be very forthcoming tomorrow in this press conference. But yeah, there's definitely some room for concern here.
100%. I totally agree. Offense, I'm a little worried. Defense, we're fine. Matt, bad start, bad officiating, too little, too late. Let's see. Curtis Har. Sorry, I always ruin it. The offense was pretty vanilla, and that was my first thought when I started talking about this. Offense had trouble running the ball. Couldn't get out of its own way on third downs, especially. And way too many defensive penalties. Our defense is solid, but our offense since after Purdue has been sus. That is very true. Ben Hansen, Bulldogs look slow and sleepwalked through the first half. Disappointing performance. Valiant comeback in the second half, but the O just isn't explosive enough to overcome significant deficits. There you go. Rodrigo, offensive line and running backs, if they would protect it better and give Keene more time, our offense would be hard to stop. There was, I forget, there was a stat about our running backs in pass pro, and it was bad. We knew that we've struggled at the running back position in pass pro. This week confirms it. It hasn't been good. And then Rob says, sucks, but we will return stronger. Moving over to Instagram, get that VV, but it's get that W. It's a Bulldog account. Says, shout out to Fife coming off the bench and doing his thing. First half was abysmal. Next, assuming he's on to the next one, I want to talk about Fife coming in. So Mikey Keene gets injured. Like you said, we'll see where he's at later on this week. Fife came in, and to be honest, I felt a different energy when Fife came in. I thought that, and you said it actually, there was something with him and the wide receivers that there's not when Keene is on the field. And we saw him connect with Mack on a beautiful touchdown pass. And there's a little bit more energy coming off the ball or coming off his arm that I like. I think there's a quarterback competition now after this. I probably not, and I might be going crazy, but I like what I saw from Fife. And you could say what you want about the pick at the end. I think that was, and his sack, but we've seen that from Keene, and the pick was, I thought, a good play by the DN, and it doesn't help that he knew exactly what we were running because we were in obvious passing down, and we've been throwing the out route all game. So there you go.
Yeah, I think with Fife, I kind of picked on, look, he was pretty much just looking to dump it short, not a ton of looking down the field. And I can't really fault him there because, the Wyoming blitz and, defensive line was getting on him in a hurry. So I think that was a really instinctual play by the Wyoming defensive line to kind of hang back and, tip the pass to himself. So, I mean, that was just a really good play and really smart. But, Fife also can't, telegraph where he's going and be that predictable. Yeah. So, yeah, there's definitely still some growth there. And, obviously he hasn't got a ton of, live game this season. But yeah, I don't know. I agree that the arm seemed a bit stronger, than Mikey so far this season. I think we've touched on that almost every week. But yeah, I don't know. I think that maybe given a full game situation where Logan is the quarterback, is we don't know if Mikey's going to be out this week. It could be a whole different look of an offense that we're going to come into, because we've seen Logan kind of being more mobile this season, even having special packages for that. So who knows, maybe this turns into a more of a running quarterback offense, which I think would be kind of fun to be on the offensive side of that, because usually that's what's been giving Fresno State some trouble over the years.
Well, now you saying that makes me think about an argument for play calling. Let's just say that, we have a plan going into Wyoming, right? And we became one-dimensional. We tried to stick to our plan. Now, what if we opened up the playbook with Mikey like we did against Purdue and a couple of these play calls we've seen in the past couple of games? I didn't see that against Wyoming. I don't know, maybe I'm sure that went against their plan, but if that's who we are, that's our identity, we got a full playbook, we can do all these different things with Mikey, let's stick to it and let's see if Wyoming can stop us, because it didn't seem like that was us last night. 1 in play calling and 2 in execution and in communication. I know we've struggled with all those things in the past, but it just didn't seem like us. I'm almost done. Cody Ben Bow, great second half performance by the defense. Mountain West Championship is the goal. Mike, Fife had his chance and I thought he would do it, but no, it didn't end up happening. And then we have Tyler Scary. Terrible defense game plan. Looked like nobody came to play. That's first half for sure. Bring the juice. That's Frank. Feed 0. Mac had a great game, by the way. And he says dogs are going to be just fine. And the Lakeness monster, that's Chris Lake, if he's in here. The slow first half for the offense with the defense. The slow first half for the offense with the defense not getting to the quarterback determined the game. Our pass rush was non-existent. When you look at the numbers, we had one pressure. And we blitzed, I think, 6 or 7 times. And we got one pressure. We got to get a lot better. We did see Tuasivi Nomura this game. Mm-hmm. He came in at edge rusher. It's tough, man. I mean, we have to create something here. We got to go make plays. I know maybe we want to contain Peasley, but when he's shredding through the air, we got to put him under pressure. The guy had all day. And did you see Peasley's quote? Peasley said, "Yeah, I had a great game because my O-line was giving me 5 seconds to throw the ball." So we weren't creating any pressure. That's Peasley's words. So that was very frustrating for me. Steve O'Grimes, dirty hit on Keene. We could talk about that. A-Rock loss hurts as much as a loss against San Jose State in 2013. Ooh, there's a debate right there. King of my castle, O-line is terrible. And Deuce Trey Sniper, tough loss. Tip your hat off to Wyoming. Chris Sal, self-inflicted wounds. Diego Hunting Slugs, pass rush lost us this game. And Gregor 26-25 started playing stiff for some reason. Logan did well given the circumstances. So thank you guys once again for getting on social media and interacting with us. If I didn't get you, sorry. Hopefully I'll get to you next week. There was a lot of you. All right. Now I can pull up YouTube and see what everybody's saying on there. Can't wait. Yeah. It's It was rough, man. This was a rough game overall. Let me get to Givoli Winery here. So today I poured at Givoli Winery, and they are a supporter and sponsor of Beware of Bulldogs. I tell you what, man, I had a good time drinking wine, so that helped this sad Sunday. Givoli Winery, their winery is made in-house. They grow the grapes. They make the wine there. They're located on Biola, just north of Shaw Avenue. Open Saturdays and Sundays, noon to 5, with wood fire, brick oven pizza for you to enjoy as well. And if you need to get there on a weekday, they are open by appointment only, so you can give them a call. You can search them on Google. Givoli Winery. Givoli is Ziveli, like Zavelli. They're local winery located on Biola, just north of Shaw. So thank you to Givoli Winery and all your support. All right, let's get to some numbers, shall we?
Yep.
All right, we're going to go with individual numbers first, and then we can touch on team numbers. Mikey, 23 for 35, 218 yards, and a touchdown. He was sacked twice. Then he got injured. Logan came in, goes 7 for 11, 68 yards, a touchdown, the interception at the end, and he was sacked once. Quarterback play in general. Let's talk about it. What did you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, do you attribute the slow start at the beginning at all to quarterback play, or is that just the inability to, gain positive yardage running the ball and, a couple costly penalties or play calling, or I don't know. I guess I'm answering your question with a question here.
I think it's because we're so one-dimensional. I think when a team knows you can't run the ball, like we can stop the run with a 4-man front, then they can sit back and expect to pass. And, and even when we did run, we couldn't do it. So we just look like a one-dimensional team right now. And I don't think it's too hard for teams to plan for us. Now, I mean, Peasley did come out and say, well, this was offensively. They had a good plan for Fresno State, and they did out of the gate. But yeah, I think when it slow starts, we're too predictable, too one-dimensional. They know that we are going to – I mean, I said this in the preview. We're going to be successful on short passing game. And if I'm seeing that, then we know the coaches are seeing that. So we got to get better in all facets of our game.
Right. Yeah, I mean, in regards to quarterback play, I mean, the most common throw in this game was like the long out route. I mean, like to the opposite hash, and obviously it's a tough throw to make, and there were a couple early that weren't quite on target. There were a couple drops early, but I mean, it is a tough throw for Mikey. He hit Jalen Moss had the longest reception of the day, but that was on just yards. But I mean, it was just a simple slant over the middle, and he made a couple guys miss, and got a lot of yak yards. So I think overall Mikey didn't make any poor throws, but he's also not able to drive the ball down the field. So again, I don't know if that is by design, and McCann is trying to keep it conservative and just kind of script everything short, or if that's just an inability for him to drive the ball down the field.
Yeah, and it doesn't help when your wide receivers are dropping balls. I see Robert Perez talking about that. I think we had 3 drops. They credited us with 3 drops. I think Eric Brooks had 2 of them. But I know, I think they credit with Jalen Moss with 1, I believe, but I also saw Josiah Freeman had 1. They might have credited the defensive player for making a good play, but it hit him right in the chest. You got to catch it. So we had at least 4 drops. I'm not counting the Trey Watts one where he got absolutely pummeled, and that was a PI. But we got to catch the ball. So I say we're one-dimensional. We're going to pass, but then we can't catch the ball. So now what do we do? So that's tough. It makes things very hard. And when there's pressure on you to score, when you go down early, you're trying to get back in the game, I think, we talked about Mikey being patient, and they were patient, but it's hard to be patient when you're down by a bunch of points, and you got to get back in this game. So
yeah, one last question about quarterback play. I mean, on Mikey's touchdown pass to Moss in the red zone. I mean, when you saw that come out of his hand, like how concerned were you? Because everyone I was watching with immediately said, "Oh no, like that's going to get picked, or we're just throwing it away immediately on third down."
I thought it was going out of the back of the end zone because I couldn't see it. I could not see it on the TV. It was a moonshot. I think you text me. Would you call moonshot Mikey?
Yeah, Mikey Moonballs. Yeah,
Mikey Moonballs. That's it. Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, hey, it was a good toss. It was on target, touchdown. I'll take it. But yeah, I did not know where that was going. And it was a tough throw. It was across the field. It worked out though in our favor. But those are the types of passes, where that's fine. But when he makes that pass for a 10-yard out route, that's scary. We got to fix those things up. All right, let's move on to the running game. I don't know if we've talked enough about the running game, but Malik Sherrod, 11 carries for 48 yards. Elijah Gilliam, only 4 carries for 11 yards. And then Logan Fife was credited with 2 carries, 0 yards. And Mikey Keene was credited with 2 carries for a negative 19 yards. Running game, 15 total carries to the running backs. We totaled 38 rushing yards as a team. Our long was 19 yards on the ground. It wasn't good, and I don't hold this against our running backs. I mean, you could talk about we didn't force a broken tackle, or a missed tackle. But I have to put the credit on the O-line. I have to. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the running game?
Yeah, I agree. It's really tough to diagnose this because it seems like most of the issue is with the offensive line, and there's not a huge hole for running backs to go through. But at the same time, if Harrison Whaley was Fresno State's running back, I mean, how do you think the game would be going? Because I mean, Whaley was really explosive and a good looking back. So I mean, is he an upgrade over Sherrod? I mean, obviously, I hate to say that, but we're the fan podcast, so we can say what we want here.
Well, I don't think it's any secret that Whaley, he's an NFL running back. The dude is big. He's fast. I watch him outrun Texas DBs. He outran them, and he breaks tackles. If you arm tackle him, he's not going down. So, there's a difference with a Whaley holding the ball or carrying the ball, but as we got to stop him. But when we run the ball, I think you got to hit the hole. You got to put your head down and run. You can't ask questions when you got to hit the hole. Problem is, it's not really a hole. No, it's when you get hit at the line of scrimmage, that means someone's right there waiting for you. So either our vision is poor, which I don't think that is. There was one time where Sherrod, I was yelling at him to cut it back and go because it was open. That I wish he would do. But when you have monsters running at you, especially like Wyoming monsters, and you can't really see, I know I'm making up excuses here, but it's tough. But O-line hasn't helped at all. So I'm putting all the credit or O-line. So I can't put everything on the running backs. So all right. Receiving, Jalen Moss, 9 receptions, 115 yards and touchdown. He had a long of 50. That touchdown was a long of 50. Magdalena, 8 receptions for 90 yards and a touchdown. Nice catch and nice toss from Logan Fife. That was a good play. Jalen Gill, 4 receptions for 24 yards. Trey Watson had 3 for 21. Malik Sherrod had 2 for 17. And Elijah Gilliam had 2 for 10. And the name that is at the bottom is Eric Brooks, 2 receptions for 9 yards. We have to get Eric Brooks open. Every time Eric Brooks has a good game, we win. We have to get Eric Brooks open. So whether that's scheming him open, but also we got to get Jalen Gill more touches. I think 4 touches is not enough. Also, Eric Brooks, so that everyone knows, was not 100%. They said that, but he was returning punts. I didn't get that. I don't know. But that's when I say we got to get guys like Eric Brooks and Jalen Gill the ball. Now, Mac Delane and Jalen Moss, big game. And I like what I saw from them. They're good players. They got open and they had good yak yards. Give me your thoughts, Caleb, on this receiving core and their performance on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it was good to see another consistent performance from Jalen Moss. Seeing him, do that, should help with the confidence going forward because, he's showing that he deserves to be on the field. And, if we're looking at the, snap counts for all the players, I mean, Jalen Moss by far had, the most, time on the field for the receiving corps. So, he's definitely solidified himself there. Starting off the game, first play was a pass to Trey Watson. So I was thinking, all right, finally, these guys are listening to us and trying to get Trey the ball. And then, I mean, he was just getting clobbered anytime he was in the middle of the field. So, I mean, that was not really an option for the whole game. But, it was good to see a couple more targets to Trey. And, I mean, the catch he made on the tip ball was crazy. So just really good concentration and athletic ability there. So, overall, I mean, really not a whole lot of complaints on the receiving corps. No. Most of the guys pretty much did what they were asked to do. But yeah, obviously Eric Brooks makes a big difference. And when, you don't have, your explosive slot guy who has to, maybe even get a double team from the defense, it's going to make it easier for, Fresno State's opponent to try to match up.
That's very true. All right, Caleb, before we move to the defense and get to the chat, tell me about our next sponsor, ManageX.
That's right. ManageX is another great sponsor of Beware of Bulldogs and supporter of Fresno State Athletics too. So they're a full-service property management company in Fresno and Clovis area. So if you're a landlord or property owner here in Fresno or Clovis and you need help with either your single-family home, small apartment complex, or office or industrial property, look them up on their website, managex.net, and get some more information there and see how they might help you, dealing with property management.
Dennis Shaw says he's hoping to get to the Fiesta Bowl. Is there a chance? I don't think so.
I don't think. And I mean, at this point, do you even want to go up against Alabama in the Fiesta Bowl or whatever the projection was? Because I think that would just be a beatdown.
Well, I think these bowls I think they would rather invite another team because there's so much parity this year in college football. I'm thinking that they would rather invite an Oregon State or, a third place Pac-12 team. Because the Pac-12 is loaded, depending on who gets into the playoff. And same with Big Ten. You have Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. So because the nation is loaded with good football teams this year, honestly, I don't know I know that there's reserved for a G5 team. There's supposed to be one reserved, but why would they invite a G5 team when they can grab all these other teams if there's no undefeated G5 team? So
right. Yeah, I mean, I think it makes more sense just to have it be merit-based, which I think is what, G5 fans have been asking for this whole time. Obviously, if there's no team that warrants an invitation, then I don't think it should be a pity invite.
No, but if you win your conference, I think you should get invited to a playoff to at least compete for a national championship. Bring back, conference championships and what they really mean or what they should mean. That's what people should be played for. Conference championships. We should be playing for a national championship, and I want to compete for one. So G5 schools, we want to compete for national championships, which we are going to get a chance to next year. So, and by the way, I do want to say this about Mikey Keene. Okay, we do have a guaranteed spot in New Year's Six Bowl. Okay, so there is a chance. We just need help. We need help from Air Force and Wyoming by losing. And, if we win out and Marshall wins out, do we get chosen over Marshall? Something to think about. Or a good American team.
Yeah, well, the Dogs are going to have to get through a really good Air Force team, I think, to get there.
That's true. Or we get Wyoming again.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and you know what? You said, do we want to play Alabama? Yes, I want to play those schools. I do. I do. I want to play the best. And I think it's good for our boys to see that competition or see that level. Whatever school it is, I want to play the best, and I want to be able to compete with the best. And honestly, if we put together 4 quarters, we could do it. Let's move to the defense now. If we play like the first half, like we did on defense, we can't beat anybody. But that's if we play the second half, we could hang with most people. So Malachi Langley, Dean Clark led the team with 8 tackles. Dean had 6 solos. Carlton Johnson had 6 as well. We had multiple guys with 6. We did see Cameron Braca got the start at safety. Cam Lockridge was out this game. He was injured. So Zillian Hamilton got the start there and played most of the game. We had 3, 4, 5 TFLs. We had 1 sack, and Devo basically pulled his guy, the tackle, onto Peasley.
Yeah. Like a self-sack.
His own guy sacked him, yeah. We talked about the D-line not getting pressure, but let's start there. What does the D-line need to do to get pressure? But it doesn't look like by itself, just 4-man front, 3-man front, we can't create pressure by ourselves. We have to be blitzing to create pressure. But even then, we're credited with 1 pressure. So what do you think we need to do? Is there an answer? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. Fresno State was without Isaiah Johnson this game. He was also out with injury. So I don't know if he's the answer, if he's that big of a factor, to make a difference in terms of getting, more pressures on the opposing quarterbacks. It seems like it's just going to have to be more creative blitzes. And, it did seem like, in the second half, there was a lot more activity, coming off the edge for the Fresno State defense, where I think they just pretty much trusted the secondary to say, hey, you need to do your job. We need to get, more guys in the box and more guys trying to get after the quarterback. So I think that's what it has to be. We got to send more than 4 guys, and, that's going to be someone blitzing off the edge every time. I think that has to be the way until, someone is able to break through and, really be a force on that D-line.
And if you guys listen to our Get to Know, you'll know what I'm talking about. Cody from 7220 Sports is talking about they're just going to run the ball and beat their head on a wall. Doesn't matter if it's working or not. And how about Wyoming not doing that at all?
Well, I mean, great. So we should give the Fresno State defense credit for, limiting Whaley to only 83 yards on 22 carries. I mean, this was a guy coming into the year who was averaging over 8 yards a carry. So, I mean, to hold him to under 4 yards a carry, I think was, a really big feat. Overall on the day, Wyoming did have 130 yards rushing total. So, obviously that's still, a decent game for, the Wyoming Cowboys. I think Fresno State would love to have a 130-yard rushing game at this point. So, we do need to give some credit that they pretty much shut down Whaley, and, there weren't any big home run plays at least on the running game.
Right. That's true. Linebackers, Malachi Langley, I thought was good. We talked about him being a difference this game because he's bigger linebacker. He's going to come up and play against the run game. It's hard to, when it comes to the pass. Here's what I saw. We did man up a lot when it comes to the corners. I saw sometimes we'd man up and we're running zone over the middle, and I thought we did fine. We just, they overloaded zones and did a good job. And I thought our linebackers did a really good job stopping the run. I didn't see anything negative. Did you? Or
no, I don't think so. I think the linebacker play has been really consistent. Lavelle and Malachi, I think both had good games. I mean, we saw some Tyler Mello early. There was, I think we were going with 3 linebackers, which I think is something you were asking, or coming into this game is, if that was something that we might see.
Yeah, and Raymond Scott was in there as well. It was a fun game to watch schematically. There's a quote here from Robert Perez that I actually like. Or he said my consolidation is that this is a young offense made up of new players, respective offense. I would hope they would have gelled more than they are, but hopefully, if this year isn't it, next year could be. I feel the same way, Robert. I thought they would gel a little bit more, but young team. And then he also says, tell the D-line to not shower or wipe.
Anything for an edge.
Yeah. All right. Secondary. Alzillian struggled. It was not good.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first thing I said when we came on here. And you said, hey, Carlton wasn't that great either. And you're right. I mean, 6 for 6 against Hamilton, 4 for 5 against Carlton. You're not stopping many people. And then safety play was fine against the run, but against the pass, we struggled. And I thought that the outsides of this defense, were the strongest point. It looked, other than the D-line, it looked like the weakest group in this game. What are your thoughts on the secondary?
Yeah, I think the best performance was probably Maurice Norris. I mean, he was all over the ball, providing better coverage, I think, than Johnson and Hamilton early in the game. So, another really good game from him. And I think Mo dropped a pick too, if I'm remembering correctly. So, obviously we'd like to see him pick that off, but he's really good in that position and is a key member of this defense. And yeah, it was really strange seeing Johnson early just kind of looking a little lost out there, and maybe just frankly surprised that these Wyoming receivers were getting that much separation on him, or maybe the surprise was that Beasley was actually throwing the ball well, which was surprising to a lot of us.
I will say this. Wow. I will say this. We played some soft coverage on them. I listened to Timmy B, Tim Brando, and his color commentator. I forget his name.
Spencer
Tillman. They were talking about we were in press coverage, and occasionally we were in press coverage, but it wasn't really like this press coverage. I thought we should really try and jam these guys at the line just because we were that much better. And because we didn't, guys had so much space to do whatever they wanted. And I didn't like that. But you guys know me. I'm smash mouth football, hit somebody. It's easier said than done. But I would really like to see us, if we're going to press cover somebody, get up in his face and breathe on him. Touch him, do something. Because they ran a lot of those out routes and comebacks and some hitches and things like that. And we're 5 yards behind them. They catch the ball, turn around, and get to do something with it. So I would like to see that change. That was game plan. I didn't like that because I thought we're faster and more physical on the outside than Wyoming, so we should at least threaten them in that way. Now, when we play, a Boise team with good wide receivers or a San Jose State, it's going to be a little bit different. But schematically against Wyoming, let's get in them. We got to match the energy because Wyoming, they're going to punch you right in the face, and they're going to keep punching you and just lay on you. It's pretty rough. So D-line and secondary was pretty tough this game to watch. But second half was much better. All right. Is there anything else that we need to talk about defensively?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we need to get on to maybe the best performance in terms of, the third phase of the game for Fresno State.
Yeah, we were talking about Wyoming. Well, they're ranked number 1 from PFF in special teams. And I believe it was special teams efficiency, whatever that is. We looked really good. I thought kicking the ball, Carson got a hold of one. I hate punting, but if we are boot it, Carson did that. Field goals, perfect on field goals. So, yeah, you're right. It was probably the best aspect of this game for Fresno State.
Yeah, and a perfectly executed onside kick too, which we can't Can't forget that. So, I mean, my big question though with punting is, I think it was early in the fourth quarter. Fresno State had the ball. I think we were around midfield, and it was fourth and short-ish, and Tedford decides to punt and trust the defense. So, obviously hindsight's 2020, but in that moment, it felt like Fresno State had some momentum still, and I would have liked to see Tedford go for it, just because, I mean, if you're going to trust your defense to defend 80 yards, what's the difference if they're getting the ball at the 50? So I kind of questioned that one. I don't know, did you have a thought on going punt there instead of going for it?
No, I don't remember, to be honest, so I don't want to say too much about things I don't remember and don't know, but I hate punting, so there you go. I understand it, but I hate it. Actually, what ticked me off the most, and this has happened twice, it happened against Nevada, and it happened here at the end of the first half. We have the ball. There's 31 seconds left. We're down. This is against Wyoming. We're down with one timeout with the ball, 31 seconds left, and we have to kick off to Wyoming. Start of the second half. We knee it and go in. To me, I don't get it. I don't get it, Caleb. To me, that's like giving up.
I think if you look at our offensive success, though, I mean, we mentioned no success throwing the ball for more than 20 yards, and so if we need realistically 60 yards to
go throw a deep ball.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to play the other side here. So, and obviously, worst case scenario is a pick six or something. So I think coaching staff is trying to cut their losses. Say, hey, let's get in the locker room and regroup and try to figure out a different game plan, because whatever was going on was not working at that time.
Well, and my thought, I'm sitting watching the game with my brother and my dad, and the whole family's over, and we're talking about, come on, guys, we haven't stopped them, right? This is at halftime, so we have not played well on defense. We can't stop them. We can't score. We at least need to try to do something to get something going. Like, take a shot 40 yards down the field, 60 yards down the field. Have Mikey Keene just chuck that thing, and let's see what happens. Put Trey and Josiah Freeman down there, our biggest guys. Go up for it. Something. Let's get something going, because we haven't been able to stop them to that point. Now, we did in the second half, but I would like to see a little more aggression from the coaching staff late in the game. They did the same thing against Nevada, and I think we had 2 timeouts left against Nevada at the end of the half. Anyways, that you were talking about that situational thing with the punt. That's the first thing that came to mind in my world. So, okay, before we get to play of the game and player of the game, I want to tell you about Eastie's Woodshop. Eastie's Woodshop, another big supporter of Beware of Bulldogs and Fresno State Athletics. Eastie's Woodshop is a great place to get custom quality gifts and games for your loved ones. So they do woodworking, woodshop. They do woodworking. They'll sketch logos, names in wood and metal. And whatever you want personalized, you can get that from Eastie's Woodshop. Head over to easties-woodshop.com. That's east-woodshop.com. And if you don't see something on the website that you like, you can send them a message and they'll build it for you. They're awesome local people. Use code BEWARE for 15% off your first purchase. I can't wait for our products to come in, Caleb. I'm pumped for them. Head over to easties-woodshop.com. Use code BEWARE for 15% off your first purchase. They have a lot of good stuff over there. All right. I mentioned we got to touch on team stats. I think it was at halftime. I wanted to say Wyoming had 22 first downs to our 4 or 6, I believe. Yeah. I don't remember the exact number. That really was wild.
Lopsided. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I tell myself after an ad, I got to get to the chat. I can't forget about you guys. I'm sorry. When is Damian Moore coming back? I still don't know. I'm sorry. He's been injured, and we haven't heard much. It's really tough to get things out of this coaching staff, but we know that. And Dennis Caleb says that they should have went for it. He's on your team.
Yep.
When we look at team numbers, Caleb, anything that stands out to you?
Well, I mean, the good is Fresno State was 2 for 2 on fourth down, which kind of leads to mine and Dennis's argument about going for it there, because they had some success there. I mean, overall, the time of possession ended up kind of evening out towards the end of the game, but I mean, the first half it was really lopsided for Wyoming. I mean, each of their plays was, going the full field. So credit to them for at least, putting good drives together. But, I think those are, crucial. And, turnovers, Fresno State had more turnovers than Wyoming. So, it's going to be tough to win those games.
Mm-hmm. Actually, the first thing that was time of possession for me that stuck out. But I want to also touch on red zone. So in the red zone, we've been money on defense. In big games, we've come up clutch and had huge stops at the goal line. Wyoming was 4 for 4 in the red zone. So we didn't get that one stop. If we get that one stop like we usually do, we may win the game, or it's a totally different game. We may even win. So yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to say. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Like early in the game, I kind of expected, it's like, okay, like, yeah, they're driving, that's fine. But when the field gets smaller, the Fresno State defense has been, really stepping up. And, all 3 times, I mean, they, scored a touchdown with relative ease. So that was a little bit surprising. And then, Fresno State did still have a chance to win this game at the end, which, we haven't really got to. But, that missed field goal, I think I successfully jinxed the Wyoming kicker. So I was happy about that. But, yeah, I mean, overall, a lot. I don't even know where I was going with that train of thought.
Let's move on to our play of the game and player of the game. Play of the game, Caleb. I think of one play. I mean, there's two plays, but I'll let you go first.
I mean, I think the first play that gave me hope was the Dylan Lynch onside kick, because after that, it's like, okay, Tedford's getting a little aggressive. Baxter had something cooked up. He's still the same, evil genius on special teams. Like we can still figure this out. So like, okay, that finally, put a little bit more hope in me that like, okay, I think there's still a chance. And at that point, there was. I mean, that was a big momentum change for Fresno State.
Yeah, and actually, I thought of another play that I'm actually going to choose. So It was the onside kick. Jalen Moss's touchdown was great, but Logan Fife to Magdalena in the end zone was a great play. I'm going to take that as my play of the game. We're not taking a Wyoming play. We're just not doing that. I know we lost, but the Logan Fife to Magdalena touchdown, I'm going to go with as my play of the game. To be honest, I can't think of any other plays. Just those 3.
No. Yeah, I mean that was going to be my other play, the touchdown to Mac, because that was like, okay, there is still a chance here. I mean, Fife figured it out how to get the ball in the end zone on a crazy play too. So yeah, those 2 I think definitely deserving of play of the game.
Yeah. All right, player of the game. But before we get to the player of the game, I spoke of throwing up a Hail Mary and praying for some miracles during this game. But check out a sponsor, a big supporter of the show, the Vine Church in Fresno, located on Shaw, just west of Grantland. Their services are Sundays, 10 a.m. We had potluck today. It was great. But if you are looking for community, a support group, sound biblical teaching on truth, come on out to the Vine Church on Shaw, just west of Grantland, Sundays, 10 a.m. We also have small groups if you're interested in joining. We have a great time out there. Let me know if you're coming. I'll meet you there, and we have a great time. So thank you to the Vine Church in Fresno for all your support. All right, player of the game. It's not Peasley. It's not the Wyoming guys. We're going with a Fresno State guy. who's your Fresno State player of the game this week?
I'm gonna take Jalen Moss. Just another solid performance for him. I mean, he's turning into a number one receiver target for this team, and he's dependable. And he made a really good play, and had a good chunk play that kind of put a little spark into the offense. So overall, Jalen Moss, solid performance.
I agree. I couldn't pick another one. I knew you were going to go with Jalen Moss. I was trying to think of somebody else. I couldn't do it. I'm going with Jalen Moss. He was. I mean, I guess you could go with Mac Delana.
Yeah.
And late in the game, he came in clutch there. But yeah, Jalen Moss had a good game, so I'm going to go with Jalen Moss there. And last but not least, our last sponsor for the episode is Flora Flower Co. You guys, if you need flowers, or just to say you love you didn't do anything wrong, just to say I love you. That's why I get flowers, right? Head over to Flora Flower Co. They are a local flower shop, and they support local growers. And by the way, if you need things other than flowers, they have it there. They have gifts. So they're your one-stop shop for flowers, gifts for your loved ones. Monday through Saturday, Shepherd and Willow, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. A florist will be in the store to help you. And if you use code Fresno15 at checkout, and I was told this past week, that you can use that code in store as well. Fresno, the number 15, you get 15% off. So that's Fresno, the number 15 for 15% off. That's online and in the store. And you can sign up for a subscription for your loved ones. And those subscriptions, they will ship stuff to you, and those come with free delivery. So shout out to Flora Flower Co. for for being a big sponsor of Beware of Bulldogs. All right, Caleb, anything else that you want to touch on about this game? I know I'm ready to move on, get past this. This is my least favorite part about doing this show, is doing it after a loss. I don't like losing.
Yeah, we haven't had to do this in a long time. So I was honestly thinking about that this morning. I was like, man, I don't even remember what it feels like to lose a football game. Obviously, we experienced this a lot during basketball season, but football has been a different story. So hopefully this doesn't continue. I mean, I'm sure Coach Tedford is going to have a lot to say to this team, and there's going to be some adjustments that need to be made, and our storyline of the experienced coaching staffs versus the inexperienced ones kind of continues through this week. Craig Bowl is a very good coach for Wyoming. He had his team fired up, a very experienced team, and I think that was part of the difference with why they were able to take down Fresno State here. So should be a good matchup this week at Utah State. Short week on the road, another tough environment.
Yeah, game's Friday, so we're gonna be cooking through our previews and our get to know. We will have those for you. Be sure to hit the like button on YouTube. That's that thumb, and tell someone about Beware of Bulldogs. If they're a Bulldogs fan and part of the Red Wave, they should be here. Get them in the chat. We'll have a good time. You guys know. So thank you guys so much for all your support. Let's go beat the Aggies. Oh, what Aggies in Utah State? Come on. We're Aggies. What a joke. Anyways, all right, let's go beat the Aggies. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Stay safe, stay healthy. God bless. And as always, go Dogs.
Go Dogs.